Our guest today is Buzz Alexander, Professor of English Literature at the University of Michigan, winner of the Carnegie Case National Award for Teaching in 2005, founder of the Prison Creative Arts Project, and the author of the book, Is William Martinez Not Our Brother?
I was teaching a course at the University of Michigan on guerrilla theater, so we were going out into the streets or going into classrooms and being disruptive around social justice issues. And there was a student who was taking the course in 1990 in January, and she was actually delivering materials to two women who were enrolled at the University of Michigan from prison. So she was driving an hour and a half back to bring them the materials. And it turned out that they wanted to take this course, the guerrilla theater course.
So you went there thinking this is an extension of your classroom. You didn't go there to serve a prison. It sounds like you said,
no,
this is a classroom, two more students.
Right.
And then it turned out it became an arts project. But instead of 258 showed up, and then 21 years later, several thousand have gone through this particular program. So you've gone beyond theater to other forms like painting and music and poetry. And what else have you experimented?
Well, we've had dance for a while. We've had some music workshops. We work in juvenile facilities and high schools in Detroit as well, and in high schools that are challenged, in poor high schools. We don't go to the elite high schools. So we've done video, we've done photography, neither of which we can do in the prisons. Dance, we've created over the 21 years now, it's over 532 original plays in all those facilities.
Okay.
We've done about 200 readings, public readings within the prisons and the juvenile facilities and high schools and so on. We've had about 134 art workshops. Why it works so well is when we go into a prison to do a theater workshop, for example, or a poetry workshop, we're going in to create something. Mm-hmm. And everybody walks into the room. We walk into the room. The prisoners walk into the room. And therefore, there's a creative space that wouldn't exist. We bring in a few exercises at the beginning, theater exercises and so on. My students have not studied incarcerated people before they come into the workshop because the incarcerated people cannot study elite students. So we want them to go in together and meet. The prisoners often are concerned that they will be judged as criminals and as terrible people. Mm-hmm. And the students are concerned that they will be judged as elite, rich people who have no street smarts. So everybody comes in like, where am I? The boundaries, which are still there, I mean, we know we're white, we know that most of them are African American and Hispanic and poor white and so on. The gender differences are huge. The class differences are huge. And they're all still there, but in a certain sense, they go away because we're creating together, and we're going to get up in front of people together, and we're going to perform on a stage or in a room together. And it creates just a wonderful atmosphere to the point at which in the best groups, which is most of them, at the very end when we're leaving, everybody says, this has been a family. And it's opportunity for my students to get past their stereotypes, the cliches that they've been given in their lives and so on, and really interact with people who are as powerful and as interesting and as complex as they are. One of the young men there began to speak, and he said, that was me. He said, when I came in, I had been abused, I'd been hurt, my whole family was like that. I was hard, I was cold. When I came in, I just wanted to draw skulls, you know, and all of the roles that I tried to create in the play were tough roles. And then he talked about how gradually writing poetry, acting in the plays had led him to a very, very different place. And it was just great testimony as to what can happen when you do this work. We are actually 25% of all prisoners in the world. We're 6% of the world population, and we have 25% of the world's prisoners.
Something wrong or deeply disturbing that we're not paying attention to what's going on here.
And the fact that we don't pay attention to it is very, very significant. My experiences in the past as an activist, being involved in the anti-war movement, and a whole range of things made me know that this was something I wanted to do. And I didn't know at that time about that we were putting people who we were not employing in the prisons. That's where we were keeping them. There had been a vast increase of prisons in the United States at that time. At one point, there was a prison a week being built in this country. And then we began to create very long sentences so people would stay in prison a long time. And essentially, people were being taken out of the economy. And by the time they got out of prison, they couldn't be in the economy anyhow.
So it seems like a policy decision gone very bad. We're still kind of dealing with the repercussions of that.
Yes, and we still don't have decent salaries for human beings.
Okay.
Yeah. I see the work we're doing as political work. When we do this massive exhibition of art by Michigan prisoners, and we had 422 pieces of art on the walls in the last show. It's the biggest prison art show anywhere in the world. And what happens is that people walk into the gallery and they see very, very powerful and very, very skillful work. I've heard people say in the gallery, this is magic, and they'll say, I had no idea, because their stereotypes of prisoners are punitive. They see them as trash or as criminals. They don't see them as creative people. They don't see them as people who have ties to their families or who love their children and so on.
Why did you decide to call the book Is William Martinez Not Her Brother? Who is William Martinez?
William Martinez grew up in Oakland, and he ended up belonging to a gang called Nuestra Familia. And he then ended up in the security housing unit at Corcoran Prison. And at that prison, the corrections officers were setting people up to fight in this yard. And they were betting on who would win the fight. William Martinez came into the yard one day, and they had set him up, as I understand it, to fight with a man named Pedro Lomeli, who was from La M, which was a gang in Los Angeles. And there was tremendous enmity between those two gangs. And Martinez had won the fight, and he was walking away from the fight, and the rifle hit him in the back and killed him. And I think, generally speaking, most Americans don't think William Martinez is their brother or their son or their child and so on, because essentially as a nation we disregard them. They're invisible. We consider them trash. They've created a crime and so on. But it's an old question, and it's an important question. Am I my brother's keeper?